Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. I think I will try to reply in a good English, because question were in English. If this is fine. I know this is not a good practice, but I'll try. Very quickly, I think on Canada, well, hopefully Trudeau will be truthful to his commitments, because I understand he's been calling for Indigenous peoples to vote for him. So hopefully we'll follow that, and the hopes he raised will be followed by action. I think it's a window of opportunity as well for civil society, human rights movements, and of course Indigenous peoples and First Nations issues. You may want to look at, maybe you already know that Human Rights Watch did a report on the same subject, on the same human rights violations in British Columbia, and maybe there is a lesson to learn from that process on how this in other how do you say in English, provinces? In other provinces, whether that process is that advocacy work done by Human Rights Watch with Canadian NGOs is a good example to follow to address these issues you mentioned. And of course the UPR could be a good opportunity to raise the issue and ask for a very specific recommendation, like an inquiry or any other measure you consider appropriate. Having said that, the situation of communities up to the north are very dramatic. You mentioned suicide rates, and it's very, very a real concern. In relation to Nepal, what a question. I will have some trouble to answer that, but coming back to my presentation, priority in times refers really to the process of colonization, of building. So it's according to the region of the country. This might have a different, this require a different interpretation of what it exactly means. It's very clear in Latin America. Spanish conquistadores, they arrived, and they took the power and they built up the nations, and so, but indigenous were living there before. That's the meaning. That's the meaning of being before and having an historical continuity as a distinct group. Now in practice, even in Latin America, there is a lot of conflicts when it comes to land, because indigenous people have lost a lot of lands, and the claims is very difficult sometimes to enforce, because it conflicts with other populations who are also legitimate and say, well, we also have the right to lands, even though we're different. So there are some specificities in different countries. One way to go, based on the international standards, is to call for consultation, participation of those in concerns, until you reach at least a consensus, and hopefully the consent of everyone on what are the rules to define who is indigenous, what are rules to recognize land titles. But we have to recognize this is a very difficult topic, especially in a post-conflict country. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the ILO convention is binding. It's a treaty. So maybe in that sense, you may want to follow, maybe you're already doing, but follow what the ILO Committee of Experts is actually saying about Nepal, about the implementation of the treaty by Nepal, and what are the recommendations of the ILO supervisory body to Nepal in relation to the implementation of the 169, and whether to see whether there are specific recommendations on lands, on self-identification, on all these issues you raised, because that would be an authoritative interpretation and international recommendation that you can use in your advocacy work. Well, I guess that's all what I can say in a few words. Thank you very much.